Hello and welcome to a brand new Out of the Park Baseball 26 series. I've just completed my challenge run of the Baltimore Beeholes, a team whose players all had to have terrible personalities. And I found out that I had a lot of fun playing with those kinds of restrictions. And so I'm going to do another challenge run, and it's going to have an entirely different restriction. So one of the things that people have been complaining about, I've noticed, is that the aging curve it's a bit much. And I agree. Just offhand, I feel like players are aging out too quickly, especially like pitchers falling off at like age 29. But I don't know if that's actually true or not. So I want to find out. And one of the things I never do when I play Out of the Park Baseball is I don't sign the older free agents. I don't sign players to contracts extending into their mid-30s and later. I just never do it because there's always someone coming around who's going to be a better investment, get my trade value out of the veteran, etc. But this time, it's going to be all old guys. And I don't know how it's going to turn out. I don't know if it's possible to be competitive that way and to stay competitive that way. But we are about to find out. So the first thing to decide is how exactly to restrict the ages. And I wanted a nice even number of age 35. But unfortunately, when I go to filter by age greater than age 34, we see that there are only 75 players who are in the majors who are 2.5 stars and up who could qualify for that. And so I can't take like more than 33% of the available players. That's just a little too restrictive. So the sweet spot is going to be age 34 and up. And on that note, the team will be choosing, well, it's not going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers. It's going to be the Los Angeles Codgers, of course. Come on, you didn't really think I was going to choose the Dodgers, did you? I love me some Freddie Freeman, but we all need an excuse to play with Mike Trout, right? So it's going to be, the budget's going to be a little tighter than if we were the Dodgers. It's going to be a little harder to get the best players. And Mr. Oldie Butt Goody is making his return. Let's hope he doesn't sell the team like he did in our last challenge. I think he'll be happier with the Codgers. He'll fit in a lot better with them. Note that it is September 1st. This game's a live start. And the main reason for that is because Mike Trout just turned 34. So happy birthday, Mike Trout. And we're going to go ahead and sim through the rest of this. I'm not particularly concerned with what happens in between now and the end of the season, because the real challenge is going to kind of start on day one of the off season. We will find out what our new budget's going to be. Right now, we're sitting on the 12th highest budget and 11th highest player payroll, which is actually pretty good news for us. We're going to need money for free agents and stuff, so while it's important we didn't have a team like the Dodgers who could afford every free agent, it is good that we do have just enough money to get by here. We've got a good market size, decent enough fan loyalty and interest that we can work on. And our ticket price, we'll probably be able to bump that just because some of the older players are a little more popular. And so I'm going to go ahead and sim through until we get to the off season, and that's when the challenge really begins. And first, a quick note on the rules and the settings for this game. So the main rule is for a player to participate in a Major League Baseball game for the Los Angeles Codgers, they have to be 34 years old or older. And that's just a hard rule. To be on the active roster at all. Now, they can be on the 40-man. I will allow myself to keep guys on the 40-man who are about to come up, like guys I would need to keep on the 40-man in order to like retain them. So that's okay. But nobody can play in a Major League Baseball game or be on the 26-man roster or the extended 28-man roster unless they are 34 years old. We're not changing scouting at all. Shouldn't be changing anything on this page. We are leaving injuries at normal. That's going to really hurt later. Suspension's normal. We are showing personality ratings on the profile page. A big non-change is we are not messing with the aging, the development speed, none of that. And I find that it's a much more balanced experience when you drop the batter aging speed and the pitcher aging speed, and you set the aging target age to older. And I even drop the TCR down in most of my games. But I'm not looking for a balanced experience here. I'm looking specifically for an imbalanced experience here. And so chips will fall where they may. We're only doing the default 8 development lab size, and I would like more, but I just want to play with as many default settings as is reasonable. And we're going to get those lab-specific ratings changes in the completion email, and we are disabling the individual sliders in the player profiles. Make sure I've got free agents always wear suits. Yes. Leaving this on default. I think it's 4 ticks above. Yeah, 4 ticks above is the default. We're leaving it right there. We're not using a reputation system. We're not doing hard mode. Not doing a weird trade deadline day setup. We're leaving the evaluation settings at vanilla. And spring games are the only time when we're going to allow the runner on second. We're not going to allow ties. That's just a personal preference there. A couple fairly significant changes. We are disabling the right to refuse a minor league assignment. I need to be able to move guys on and off of the 26-man, and it's just going to be necessary in order to make this function. And then we are also disabling the 10-5 rule. That one is the one thing I'm doing that I think will legitimately make this challenge a bit easier, make players easier to acquire. So, call that easy mode if you want, but I still think this is going to be quite hard, even if we get rid of the 10-5 rule. We're allowing the trading of injured players. I don't see why you wouldn't. Changing AI trading frequency to low. They still trade a ton in the first year, usually, even if you leave it at low. We're not messing with the draft at all. The financials, we're not messing with at all. Options, dynamically evolving league, we're leaving DHs on, and we're not messing with the roster sizes. I usually like a 27-man roster. I think that's what the major league should be, but we're not going to change it for this challenge. We're not going to allow rainouts. We're not changing anything with Hall of Fame or milestones, and we are breaking ties with tiebreaker games. Everything on the player generation is set to default. And then stats and AI, I normally change the catcher framing impact to 7 because I just prefer letting great defensive catchers shine. But in this challenge, because we don't need to change it, I'm just going to leave it alone so it's as much of a vanilla experience as possible. If you were curious what's going to happen this year, the Dodgers are going to win the World Series again, this time over Toronto, 4-3. And Kyle Schwarber is going to hit 64 home runs. It's now the start of the offseason, and there is a lot to do. We have had some developments. Our fan loyalty has dropped to below average, unfortunately. Our budget has been cut by something in the neighborhood of $15 million. And our new owner goal is to not suck completely, improve ERA. We may be able to do that. We can probably get a Great Glove winner. Attendance, maybe. Total balance, I'm not worried about. Top 6 minor league teams, not going to happen. But we could probably increase our fan interest, especially if we get that event where you can start a charity. But yeah, a little tough right off the bat here. We have some decisions to make. Evan White is not old enough. Chris Taylor is 35. And he's got some utility, so his contract's real expensive, $13 million, but we'll see. We're not going to make that decision just yet. Jose Quijada is not old enough, so we're going to be letting him go. In fact, let's go ahead and void that contract and void Evan White, because we're going to be needing to get rid of all of those players. And it looks like we got expansion. Isn't that interesting? Okay, so we're going to add 2 teams, and it looks like it's going to be... I'm not seeing it. Okay, they haven't shown up just yet, but we'll get into that. We've got some arbitration. We've got some player development to do. Let's check the arbitration. Yeah, I'll definitely be looking to shop around like Reed Detmers, Logan, Zach Neto, Joe Adele for sure. Yeah, none of these players are old enough to keep around, so they'll be going away. And as far as these free agents, I may offer like Kenley Jansen another year. Not sure about Kyle Hendricks. You know, these ratings are not amazing. He's got good stamina. We'll see what our options are. but probably just Kenley Jansen. Tyler Anderson I'd love to move on from, but if we have to play him, we will. And then other pending free agents, Luis Garcia is a maybe. Andrew Chafin's just got the 2 pitches. Probably going to look to move on from him. Jose Urena, we might have to keep one guy that looks kind of like that. If we look at the ages of our minor league free agents, let's see, Brandon Drury, he's still got some stats on him. 33 years, 74 days. We may keep him around. Yeah, we'll see. No one super exciting, though, who's of age. Another thing I want to check into is the personnel. So I think there are some ways you could go on this. I mean, you could do the standard thing where you just find the best manager available at every level. But we might go for this. We've got someone like Carlos Colmenares, who is pretty good in everything. We don't worry so much about the development ratings or the mechanics ratings, but the handling aging being legendary would be great. So somebody like this would be more like the ideal coach for us. And we are going to need a really good trainer. I assume that is going to be Rick Jameson, but we'll see if anybody else spawned in at the end of the year. So yeah, everybody in our organization who's a head coach should be legendary or outstanding with aging. And then we're going to gravitate toward people like Brian Barr for our hitting coach. And then maybe somebody like Matthew Johnson, no. Maybe like a Brian Dumesnil. If we can make the personalities work, that would be great. But I think keeping the handling aging high with someone like Kerry Taylor is going to be the way to go here. We'll have a quick look at the upcoming free agents expected. So a guy like Tyler Rogers might be a good pitcher to pick up. He doesn't have the strongest looking profile, but he's got that great control and movement. So that might be okay in a pinch. Yeah, we could sign a guy like Clayton Kershaw for a year as long as he isn't getting like 20 million plus, which he sometimes does. Someone like a Kyle Finnegan looks pretty good still at age 34. Not seeing a whole lot of hitters. Marcelo Zuna, that might be a kind of guy to go for, maybe as a DH because he's got no defense left. JT, it's been a long time. It's been several years since JT was the best catcher in out-of-the-park baseball. So maybe it's time for JT to make a comeback. We'll see who else is out there. David Robertson might still be strong enough. A lot of this is going to be a question of just how expensive these contracts are going to be, because a lot of these veterans are going to want a lot of money. On the other hand, some of them aren't going to want very much at all. For infielders, I'm really looking at Miguel Rojas. This looks like a perfect player to have on our team. Probably the only shortstop. Maybe there's another shortstop out there. But if we can get a quality shortstop, that is a huge part of the battle. My major worry is getting a competent center fielder. I think we're just going to probably end up putting Mike Trout in that role. He doesn't actually have the greatest ratings to play center field, to be honest, but I don't know that we'll have a lot of other choices. How's Salvador Perez looking? He might be as good as JT. We'll have to take a closer look at that. And he's very popular. Is JT popular? Yeah, they're both extremely popular. So that's good. So we're going to be spoiled for choice at catcher, it looks like. Let's check out the infielders. So yeah, this is everybody who's an infielder who's 34 or older and who has 2.5 stars of potential is my filter. Kyle Farmer. It's just not really who you want, but how's Nick Ahmed doing? Interesting, huh? How's Jace Peterson looking? Not great. Yeah, we've got our work cut out for us in the infield. I can already tell. If we're looking at outfielders, I'm not seeing a whole lot of rangy guys. Mike Yastrzemski, always a decent choice. Michael A. Taylor's still looking good. I think he can still play center field. So we may not have to put Trout in center. We could put him in right field where he's much better. Okay. This isn't looking quite as dire as I thought. And then there's always going to be good older relievers. You'll never run out of good older relievers. So that's a good thing. Finding good older starting pitchers, though, that's the tough one. As we look at some other possible targets, not upcoming free agents, but just players we might be able to trade for. Max Muncy jumps out at me as a guy who can still play some baseball. Of course, Freddie Freeman's going to be good for a few years. That contract might be wearing on the Dodgers a little bit by this point, so we'll have to check that out. Eugenio Suarez, no. It would be fun, but maybe like a Yandy Diaz. That's more my speed right there. How's Christian Walker looking? Okay. So these are all the people showing up at first base. Let's take another look at the catchers. Yeah, you got basically JT. You got Tom Murphy. Salvador Perez. All decent choices. Not a huge fan of Higgy unless, his ratings are not great here. How's Mitch Garver looking? Potentially. It would be good to have, of course we've got Travis d'Arnaud. He may end up being our backup. We'll see. Let's move straight to shortstop. There are not a lot of old shortstops in the league, are there? It's just Miguel Rojas, to be perfectly honest. Hechavarria is a guy we also are going to want to sign. I had him briefly in my other game, and he did fine for a year. Actually, yeah, a little more than a year. Yeah, we'll probably end up picking him up for a minute. And, yeah, we looked at Nick Ahmed, Jace Peterson, and Kyle Farmer. They weren't too great. Second base. Ooh, I forgot about Jose Altuve. I don't know that Houston's going to want to move on from him. We'll find out how they feel about Jose Altuve. Marcus Semion's he making a ton of money still? Yeah, his contract doesn't go down for a few more years. Okay, so it looks like our targets are all fairly expensive players. DJ LeMahieu, he's got such good defense at first base. How did he hit him? Okay, I mean, if he could put up 240, 250 for us, that would be amazing. Let's double check third base. Arenado, of course, might be somebody that St. Louis is looking to move on from. But let's check what his contract is because he's getting into his cheaper years. So we'd really love to pick up Nolan Arenado if we possibly could. Eventually, guys like Manny Machado will become available. Let's try center field. There are a surprising number of center fielders out there. I thought there'd be like 2. Okay, Mike Tauchman's not really one. I don't think George Springer is either, no. Although would not be a terrible bat to have. Yeah, I think we're going with Miggy probably. It shouldn't be too hard to get him in free agency. And let's take a better look at our starters because that's really going to be the tough part. I mean, Chris Sale is like the premium option I've noticed in OOTP 2026. It's all about Chris Sale when you're going for an older pitcher. Zach Wheeler seems to fall off more than others. And that contract's very expensive. And the Phillies, I don't think, hate his contract either. Nathan Eovaldi sometimes hangs out and pitches great for a couple years. DeGrom tends to fall immediately, I've noticed. But we may try him out too. I mean, we're going to get whatever we can. Someone like a Sonny Gray wouldn't be the worst. although he is making 35 million next year, which is kind of tough. And like I said before, like a Clayton Kershaw, Yusei Kikuchi is a guy we might target. Whoops. How's Yu Darvish looking these days? This would not be the worst guy to pick up, actually. What's his contract looking like? That's going to be affordable at some point. How's Marcus Stroman looking at 34 years old? Oh, he fell off in this. Okay. All right, let's check the relievers real quick. I mean, Chapman is good for like a year or two in this game. Not too bad. His personality's a little rough, but we can work with it. Maybe a Robert Suarez, if San Diego's willing to give him up. Raisel Iglesias, usually good for a year or two. And, ooh, I like that contract. I'd love to get that. Okay, so we do have some clear targets. I mean, I am obviously going to be looking more at the 34-year-old guys as opposed to the 35, 36, 37-year-old guys. But if a player is really outstanding, then I will obviously make an exception for them. Look at all the batters together here. Obviously, we've got Mike Trout. I mean, we've got probably the premium option of all. How are you looking, Rob Refsnyder? Not too bad. Okay, I'm going to have a little more of a look around, see what sort of trade deals we might be able to make, and we'll get back to it. And something real quick before we jump into some specific trades that I've looked at already. I want to talk about the minor league strategy a bit. We have a couple ways we could go with this. So we could keep dudes like Chris Taylor around. Now he's expensive. He's going to be, I looked, it's $12 million for his option, and I don't know if I'm going to pick that up or not. But keeping some older guys around in AAA, like mostly older guys that are like 32, 33, we could do it that way, or we could do more of a traditional development. So I'm going to hire all aging coaches for my active roster, but I think for the rest of the roster, we might just go with really good development coaches. And that way we just build a farm system as we normally would. We'll do everything the same, but then we'll have to rely on making trades for those older players whose contracts those other teams might retain. And our farm system right now is not the greatest. We're 27th out of 30 overall. Our best prospect is Chase Shores, and I don't have a whole lot of faith in him developing with that low control and low work ethic and baseball IQ. So we might want to try to move on from him as soon as possible. Looking at other players, see, someone like CJ Gray is probably a better pitching prospect than Chase Shores. Christian Moore is just, he's a guy I wouldn't even shortlist and pay attention to in a normal game, but he's one of our top guys. Tyler Bremner, this is really our best pitching prospect, even though he's got the low work ethic. He's got the high baseball IQ. He's got 2 really good pitches and an acceptable slider, good velocity, decent enough stamina, and he's not going to give up, probably not going to give up too many home runs. So this would be like my pick for my best pitching prospect. But we want to develop those guys, and then we want to move on from guys that I don't see a lot of value in that the AI does. The nice thing is that we won't have to worry about holding on to prospects. We won't ever feel guilty about trading away a first-round pick. Our first-round pick is going to be explicitly to allow us to get better, to get older players that are high caliber. And so if we can maybe fool the AI into taking some of our prospects that we don't care as much about, that would be the way to go there. Here's some examples of the trades that might be available for us. So if we give up Logan O'Hoppe, Zach Neto, Reed Detmers, and a couple of minor leaguers I don't care about. Now this is a lot of our trade value right here. This is 3 of our arbing players who are of the highest value to us. We could get DeGrom 30% retained, Nathan Eovaldi 50% retained, and Jock Peterson 70% retained. Ignore the first year in those contracts. Those are the 2025 years. So these years are the ones we would be getting knocked off. That's not the worst deal in the world. It's just, we are giving up quite a bit. Another potential deal we could do, Joe Adele and a bunch of guys that nobody cares about for Robbie Ray, 90% retained for next year, and Tom Murphy, solid catcher that we looked at earlier, 45% retained. And then if we go over to the Yankees, here's another example. This is one I'm almost certainly going to do. They'll take 100% of Giancarlo and all of Mark Leiter Jr. also. Actually, why is he arbing? Okay, how much is he arbing for? 2.4? You know what? That is not bad. We could use an arm like that in our bullpen. So yeah, this is a deal that I would love to make. I might even be able to work it for a little more value. So we'll jump into that next time. And I hope you'll stick around with me. This is going to be a fun series. I know our last one was a blast, and I expect this one to be great as well. So thanks for watching. So long, and take care.